Hi there, Eric Bakker, naturopath, author of Candida Crusher. Thank you so much for tuning in today to my YouTube video. Today I'd like to talk about the 5 main reasons that could affect your recovery from a Candida yeast infection, or the 5 things underpinning your recovery, hindering your recovery or accelerating your recovery, or the 5 main key factors I feel that are involved in recovery, not just from a Candida yeast infection, but these factors could be involved in your recovery from many different types of chronic illnesses, such as diabetes or heart disease or arthritis or any one of 100 different kind of illnesses. But I think you're going to find these 5 factors quite relevant if you've got a major yeast infection and you've had one for some time. So if you've clicked on this YouTube clip, you may well have come through my Candida Crusher online course. I've developed a very powerful online course for people who don't want to pay any money, who just want to get information, who want to get some very good information regarding their recovery. So this is going to be an ongoing series over several weeks and months duration. If you've come to this YouTube clip and you don't know about my online course, please have a look at yeastinfection.org or candidacrusher.com or ericbakker.com, and you can sign up the subscription box and you'll be getting a regular supply of very good quality information. Each installment will have a YouTube clip such as this, so you can read the information and you can also hear me speak about that particular topic. And please also feel free to send to a friend, a relative or a friend, or even your doctor, naturopathic doctor or medical doctor, anyone who may find this information useful or pertinent to their recovery from a chronic yeast infection. Of course, if you want much more detailed information, just buy my book. You're going to find the book to have so much more information than the website and all these videos. And it'll all be in one source there for you to read. So without further ado, let's look at the 5 major factors that could be hindering your recovery right now from a chronic yeast infection. So the first one, I put determination. You're not really going to recover unless you're determined to recover. So going to the doctor and getting a bunch of antibiotics or pills, spending a couple of minutes online reading and looking for information on how you can get well, and paying lip service to treatment. So not really being committed and determined to succeed is going to really hinder your recovery. But determination and persistence are factors which are going to help you succeed in any avenue in life, whether it's recovery from an illness, whether it's having a successful relationship or business. Any avenue in your life, if you want to succeed, you need to have a good degree of determination. If you look around the world and look at a lot of people who've achieved anything in their life of worth, determination wasn't far behind. You know, I could spend hours just telling you about all the different people that you may be aware of, like Steve Jobs with Apple, like Henry Ford with his car, like Thomas Edison with his light bulb, like Winston Churchill in saving Britain from the Nazi regime. All these people were determined and never gave in. Even when everything was against them and everyone said to them, all their advisors would say, look, just give up, it's not going to work. It was the sheer persistence and determination that pulled them through, because they really believed that they could succeed when sometimes others don't. Now you may have that with Candida. Maybe your partner feels, that it's all in your head. There's nothing wrong with you. You need to get on with your life. Maybe your doctor thinks that Candida is a bunch of baloney. That's for up to you to decide. Be careful not to let other people make decisions for you. You need to start thinking for yourself. And if you're determined to succeed and you want to crush this thing, you can crush it. Believe me, I was sick for a long time with Candida, but I was determined to succeed. And now I'm determined to help people like you get well. So determination is something you need. If you haven't got determination, flick the video off now and go and have a look at, some other junk online. All right, so let's get that clear. Determination is a key factor. Second one is the severity of your Candida. So I've always found that people will generally apply things like determination and treatment and stickability depending on how severe the condition is. When the condition is severe and bad enough, and the symptoms are really affecting the quality of your life, then maybe, just maybe, you'll turn around and say to yourself, well, that's it. I've had enough of this. I'm going to really get into it now. I'm going to finally do what it takes. I'm determined to succeed. I've got a severe condition, and now I'm going to do it. People with acute conditions, again, unless they're very severe, aren't going to act really much, are they? So severity will often dictate determination to a degree, right? If you're poor and you've had enough of poverty and you're sick of being poor, and you've got a severe case of poverty, well then maybe you can muster the determination it takes not to be poor, if circumstances allow you to. Patience is the third one. So you need to be a patient person because the body has got what we call a vital force or a dynamic principle which will allow it to heal from wounds and sicknesses and ailments. You know that with broken bones, with cuts, with scratches, with many injuries that you've had in your life, you recovered because you were patient. Have you had an operation, or have you ever had a sporting injury? You may have had times in your life when you had to be patient, but you had to stay in bed. Perhaps you couldn't get out of house much, and that patience did pay off. And in the end, your body did recover, whether it was from influenza or perhaps a rotator cuff operation on your shoulder, or perhaps you had a cesarean, you gave birth to a child. For any one of 100 reasons, you learned, particularly as you got a bit older, you learned to be patient, and the body will heal itself. I like sayings. You'll read a lot of quotations in my book, and one of them I like is, God heals, but the doctor takes the fee. And some people even believe that the doctor is a bystander in the healing process. The doctor is there to help you with serious problems, but in all cases, nature takes its course and the body heals. So if you've got a chronic yeast infection and you apply the right principles that I'm outlining in my course and in my book, you're going to get well. It's as simple as that, but you need to be patient, okay? If you're one of these people who immediately, within a few weeks, doesn't feel that he or she is getting the results, and then starts to believe, well, I need to take this antibiotic, or I need to increase this kind of food I'm eating, and then maybe you haven't got the patience that it takes to heal your body. Maybe it's a lesson for you to learn, and it could be why you actually got your yeast infection and you're maintaining it, because you're not patient enough to see things through. Okay, so patience is the third point. Fourth point, anxiety and panic. So what do I mean by that? Well, are you one of those persons that as soon as he or she gets a cough or a sore throat, you're straight off to the doctor for antibiotics? If you're one of those people, then I'd like you to switch this YouTube clip off and perhaps just think about, that. You may be wasting my time and your time, because you're not really going to get well from a yeast infection that at the first sign, of a poor recovery, that you get this knee-jerk reaction and you immediately need to take pharmaceutical drugs. So a lot of medical practice is based on this panic and anxiety. We see with immunizations, we see with antibiotics, and many people make the wrong move, a judgment call, by jumping into treatments which they later regretted. I wrote an article once about the 10 operations that you may want to avoid without some serious thought, and one of them is, for example, a back operation for spinal fusions and things like that. So in many cases, these are worthless, useless operations that well down the track, the patient realizes that they had no improvement in quality of life. And it's the same with pharmaceutical treatments. You need to think carefully before you go and get advice and, stop believing in yourself or your body's ability to heal. With patience, determination, persistence, there's a big element there where you possibly could fully recover if you just waited a little bit longer and hung in there and had that patience and didn't immediately hit that panic button, which is a pharmaceutical drug. But you thought carefully about it and took your time and applied the correct principles. I've heard this many times. And the fifth one is lifestyle changes. Have you got what it takes to really get yourself well by applying the correct changes that are required and keeping them long enough to finally see things through and get the results that you so long for? You've got to make changes on a whole lot of different levels if you want to get well from Candida. You can't just take a bunch of pills or eat all these, yummy foods, healthy foods, and expect to be cured from Candida. It doesn't work like that. I'm sick and tired of all these 12-hour cures I see online, Cure your Candida in 30 days. Cure your yeast infection in 12 hours. What a load of rubbish. If you really believe in these sorts of things, then again, you're probably wasting your time watching this YouTube clip. You need to make the right kind of changes and keep those changes going long enough to recover, and then some. And over time, you won't only recover from yeast infection, you'll recover from a whole lot of different problems that you've had probably for a long time. So when you look at those 5 points again, we spoke about the determination, the severity, the patience. Don't get panicky or anxiety if things don't turn out your way immediately. And be prepared to make the right kind of changes and make them long enough and see them through to finally get the results you're looking for. So I hope this was a useful video for you today. Thanks for tuning in.